Okay. The other thing that I notice a lot, and it's very hard as an instructor to check everyone's writing and their citing style, and then, make sure that they're not misciting their sources, because none of us, Joshua, Rama, myself, Helena, we don't have all the time to verify you have accurately cited your sources. But that said, sometimes it's pretty obvious. So, like, if I were to come across this is an article I wrote, Madison and Langolato, and it's actually published 2010. So I've miscited by citing the wrong article name here, right? Because it should be Madison and Langolato 2010. But even beyond that, if you look at the title, all it will take is anyone to look at the title and see that the title of this article is Determinants of Inner City Butterfly and Bee Species Richness. And this person is saying urbanization is increasing globally and trying to cite this study, okay? So this is a miscitation because this study is not about urbanization increasing globally. The author did not measure urbanization, right? Now, likely in this article, we probably did talk about urbanization increasing globally, and we cited other sources. So in that case, the proper thing to do would be to look up those sources yourself and find them, read them, and then cite them. So this is what's called an error of misattribution. In the case, it's you're misattributing the actual citation, right? But you're also misattributing the content of what was said. And so you need to look carefully about what you're saying an author said and decide, did they actually say that? Did they actually study it? Or did they just refer to it and cite someone else? And the solution is, like I said, to cite the actual sources after acquiring, and yes, reading them. Because if you just go by this author, what they said, someone else said, you run the risk of playing telephone on it with your scholarship, right? And things keep getting misconstrued that are not accurate to the original source. So that's why it's super important that you track those down. Here's another way you could miscite a source. You could say bees live in cities. Well, you know what? In that case, it actually would be accurate to what this study was saying. But the problem is it's technically true, but it's a gross oversimplification. It doesn't really do justice to that study, what the study was trying to say, the nuances of that study, right? Yes, bees live in cities. We all kind of know that, right? Maybe it's important to say that, but it would be better to read the article and acknowledge the complexity of the issue, right? That some bees live in cities and some do well, some don't, right? Or sometimes bees can do okay in cities, right? So to get into that in a little more detail, and Rama's going to give you some examples in a second. It's the same with like screen time or not connecting kids with nature. A lot of you will have a citation that says, it's great to connect kids with nature, citation. Well, go back to that source, read exactly who did they study? Like, what was the age group? What was the limitations, right? It's such a general thing you're saying that it might be overplaying the hand of that study, essentially, right? And in doing so, missing the fact that there may be exceptions to that rule, right? So really try and look at these a little bit more. Final example, Madison et al. Show that bees thrive in cities. Well, that's not actually, as an author, I know that's not what I said, but I actually get cited this type of way a lot when I look at the literature. It's like people are using your work to say what they wanted to say themselves, right? They didn't actually read your work in detail. They just wanted to find a source that could say what they already thought they wanted to say. So we want you to avoid that. Find sources that actually make you think differently about your assumptions, right? Because that's where you start to come off like a graduate student, like a master's level student that's really thinking and being critical. So solution would be to be more nuanced. Some bees thrive in cities, some others do not. For example, even to go into that. And we're not saying you have to do a full book report or essay summary for everything you cite, but you still can write in a 1 or 2 sentence and have that citation, but show the complexity of the studies you're referring to.